we are here today with Paper Rose, and we are going to create a background featuring the Leaf Burst 6x6 stencil and the Happy Birthday mini stamp set. Going to be doing some ink blending and embossing just using this stencil. So first I'm going to take my piece of Bristol cardstock, and I'm using Bristol because I like the way that the Distress Oxides that I'm going to be using blend on this paper. Once I have that taped in place, I am going to then pull in my colors. So we're going to go with really bright, vibrant colors. I'm going to use Kitch Flamingo for the center. Then I'm going to come in with Prize Ribbon. Then Villainous Potion, which is a fabulous purple if you're into purple. And then, yes, Black Soot. And I'm just going around in a halo type way when it comes to the inks, getting it onto the cardstock. I'm not worried about the perfect blend. I'm focusing on getting the color down onto this cardstock. Now, oxides, remember, are a dye and a pigment ink combined, which means when you apply it onto any cardstock that you might be using, they take a little longer to dry. Because I have that ability, I'm going to pull in my Wow Matte Clear Embossing Powder. When you heat set this, it does look shiny, but then once it cools down, it does go back to a matte finish. And I really like that look. So I continue to play with this one to see how it will look. I'm now going to take that stencil and I'm going to take my VersaFine ink pad, and I've placed that onto the stencil, not the cardstock. I'm going to set this down in place. Now I realize as I'm setting this down that I should be placing this on to the rubber mat that comes with my Spellbinders machine. So once I realize that, I get my embossing plate, I run that through my machine, and what that did was it pushed the ink onto the cardstock. So now I'm going to apply my gold embossing powder, and you can see it's offset a little bit, but I really did like that look. It kind of highlighted those leaves that are going to be set in gold. It also, because I used a stencil and the rubber mat and the plate on top, it gave an embossed feel to this. So it actually gave it texture and allowed those images to have sort of a dimension and give it a texture across that card. So with all of that gold, you can really see the colors coming through. So this was kind of really cool. I took that card panel, I cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to adhere that using some double-sided foam onto a black piece of cardstock that was cut to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This will be going onto a card base of a standard A2 size, and it will be a top folding card base. I'm going to use my double-sided tape to adhere this onto my card base to make sure that it is secured. And then I will be working on the sentiment. Now the sentiment, I'm going to put that on black cardstock as well. Because I used a black panel, by using that black panel for the sentiment, it kind of really makes these colors pop out. You would have a different look if you used a white panel. So black will make colors stand out. White will as well, but not as bright. So look at your colors as you're choosing your mats. You could have also chosen a mat of one of the colors of the inks that you used. I have this, I'm using my Brutus Monroe in Alabaster White embossing powder. I'm going to heat set that. I didn't like the way that it looked, and I still have the sentiment in my stamp positioning tool. So I'm going to ink that up again and heat emboss it again, just to give it a more solid look instead of having all of those. I had some areas that I missed. I am not the best embosser, but that's okay. We can double emboss as long as you don't take, you know, your item. And if you are using a stamp positioner, it makes that just a little bit easier. I'm going to heat set that again. And then I'm going to use one of my strip dies to make sure that the cutout is correct. To remove the anti-static powder that I use a dry microfiber cloth just to clean that away so that we can see it's black cardstock and not a black or a gray, you know. I'm going to set that into position and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine as well. And then I'll just end up trimming the one side of the other side of the strip right next to the H to make that even. I'll be using my double-sided foam squares to prop that up onto the center of the design. So it's going to come from the left and come across, but not fully. You could have kept that whole strip and then it would have just gone straight across. And then once I have that in place, I'm going to add some gems. These are some black gems with a blue iridescent look to them. And I'm just going to follow the pattern from the stencil to fill these in using the different sizes of those gems just to add even more sparkle. So I hope you enjoyed today's project featuring Paper Rose and the Leaf Burst 6x6 stencil. I hope I gave you some ideas for what you could do in your own crafty space. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below as well. And I will get back to you as soon as I can. Enjoy your day. Keep enjoying this process. Have fun with it while you're creating your art. But remember, and always remember what's most important. Always be creative, guys. And I'll talk to you in the next video.